buat balance ni. Nak buat balance ke okey ni?
Boleh lah, nak buat true color juga.
Oh, okey. So main iris je lah. Gelap sikit kan?
Okay. Apa?
Ya bang. Yang sound tu bang. Menu.
Masuk menu.
Menu. Sekejap button.
Tu mau okey. Oh dah, kena enter. Atas. Okey. Audio input ni. Ni. Internal mic level ni.
Tambah-tambah aja. Tak tambah tu tak?
Kau pakai earphone kau tahu lah, sebab aku tak dengar.
Oh, okey.
Sebab ni dah 8. Kalau kau tak ni connectkan 10 dua ni dulu.
Oh, connect kan ni?
Yang ni first lah. Yang ni last kali kalau tak ada choice yang abang naik ni.
Tak, kalau mula naik ni.
Kalau perlahan juga pun naik kat sini.
Oh, ini pun
Sama je.
Oh.
Ni balance dia. So kalau kau naik satu ni, satu bawah ni pun naik juga.
Oh, okey.
So kau naik satu dulu tau. Jangan naik terus naik maksimum naik
Kalau
satu.
Ini nak naik mana? Tambah dah.
Pilih lah atas dulu ke bawah dulu ke. Kau naik 16 dulu. Kalau tiba jadi perlahan lagi kau turun balik kosong.
Negatif lah. Ini phone ni. Okey. Kuat dah ni.
Kuat tak payah naikkan dah. Sebab kita kat sini. Kita dekat dengan mic.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing.
ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಓಕೆ ಆಗಿತ್ತು ನಾವು ಅವರ ಇದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್
Rabiatul.
Ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Saripan, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International of University Putra Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem Negaraku and Putra Gemilang. Thank you, and please be seated. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Saripan, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and International of University Putra Malaysia. Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Zakaria Hussein, Dean Faculty of Forestry UPM. Profesor Dr. Jegateswaran Ratnasingham, lecturer from the Department of Forest Production, who will be presenting the inaugural lecture. Principal Officers of University Putra Malaysia, Tan Sri, Datuk, Datin, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and a warm welcome to the inaugural lecture of Professor Dr. Jegateswaran Ratnasingham, titled The Malaysian Furniture Industry Charting its Growth Potential. To begin the ceremony, we would like to invite Yang Berusaha Ustaz Muhammad Hafiz bin Ghazali from the Islamic Center, University Putra Malaysia, to recite the doa.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين إلى الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي أوضح لنا سبيل الهدى والرشاد وجعل في اتباع السلامة من الآفات والمهلكات. الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد المبعوث إلينا خير خليفة الله في أرضه وأحسن أسوة لنا نقتدي به وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم يا رحمن الرحيم, you are glorified, O Allah, and praised, your name is blessed, your majesty is exalted, and none has the right to be worshipped but you. Indeed, all glory and praise is due to Allah. We glorify and praise Him and ask Him for help and forgiveness. In Allah we seek refuge from the evil in ourselves and from our wrongdoings. Oh Allah, we thank you for your kindness in making it possible for us to gather here today for this special occasion, inaugural lecture. Professor Dr. Jegateswaran Ratnasingham. Allahumma ya Qahhar, O Lord, please help us in our pursuit to become a leading center of research, learning and well-established university. Please bring up our efforts to discover knowledge and new findings in order for us to benefit our nation, people and religion. Allahumma ya mujibud da'awat wa ya qadi al-hajat. O Allah, we regard knowledge as a trust of Allah to be utilized in line with His guidance for the benefit of mankind. O Allah, please consider our quest for knowledge to be an act of worship by integrating source of real knowledge with social science, humanity, art, science and technology for the development and advancement and enrichment of our intellectual tradition of Islam and the nation. Allahumma rabbana taqabbal minna du'a'ana innaka antas sami'ul alim wa tub alayna ya maulana innaka antat tawwabur rahim. اللهم اجعل هذا جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. قبل الله.
Thank you for the dua recitation. Ladies and gentlemen, let us thank God for His blessing that we are able to be here today for the inaugural lecture of Professor Dr. Jegateswaran Ratnasingham. It is hoped that through this lecture, we will be able to form a strong networking and collaboration among researchers from within UPM, other institutions and agencies. Without further delay, we would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Saripan, Deputy Vice Chancellor Academy and International of University Putra Malaysia, to chair the inaugural lecture and to invite Professor Dr. Jegateswaran Ratnasingham to present his lecture. Yang Berbahagia Professor, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to all. Yang bahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Zakaria Hussein, Dean Faculty of Forestry, Profesor Dr. Jegateswaran Ratnasingham, our VIP today, the most important person this morning who will be presenting his inaugural lecture, Principal Officers of University Putra Malaysia, Tan Sri, Datuk, Datin, distinguished guests, family members, Prof. Jega, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to convey regards from Yang Bahagia Datin Paduka Vice Chancellor, who's not been able with us this morning due to prior commitment. And I'm honoured to be the person today to introduce Professor Dr. Jegateswaran Ranasingam in this auspicious occasion. Professor Dr. Jega attained his Bachelor of Science degree in Forestry and Masters of Science in Wood Industries Technology from Universiti Putra Malaysia. He's pretty much our own alumni. He then pursued his PhD in Furniture Engineering from Brunel University, United Kingdom. He also has postgraduate diplomas in Operations Research and Accounting and Finance. At UPM, he lectures and research on furniture manufacturing processes, wood machining processes, quality management in food industry, and international forestry issues. He has supervised more than 50 undergraduate students for the research projects, and he has also supervised 11 postgraduate students at their master's and PhD levels. Professor Jega lectures regularly at many renowned foreign institutions such as Buckinghamshire University, UK, Brunel University, University of Applied Sciences, Rosenheim, Germany, Nanyang Technology University, Singapore, and the École Supérieure du Bois, France. I hope I pronounced it right. He is also the Honorary Professor of Furniture Technology by the Buckinghamshire University, United Kingdom, which enabled him to expand his collaborative research network to include the prestigious Royal College of Arts, Victoria and Albert V&A Museum of Furniture History. He was also awarded an honorary professorship in wood processing technology in 2015 by FH Rosenheim, Germany, for his contribution towards industrial automation and abrasive sanding processes. His research capabilities in the field of furniture manufacturing and management is well acknowledged nationally and internationally. As a recipient of many local and international competitive research grants, he has authored more than 500 publications up to date. He is a regular contributor to woodworking trade magazines such as ASEAN Timber, Woodworking International, and FDM Asia. He is also regularly invited as a keynote speaker at international furniture conferences throughout the world. His best-selling book on the value-adding strategies for the furniture industry in 2013 and the Malaysian furniture industry in 2015 have both sold more than 2,000 copies worldwide and has become the most read books on the furniture industry throughout the region. At the national level, he sits on several standard development committee at MTIB as well as SIRIM and has been consulted on several issues pertaining to the furniture industry, not only by the relevant timber agencies but also by commercial banks in the country. His reputation as the leading woodworking industrial expert trainer in the region is attested by inclusion in the recommended list of experts in the woodworking technology by FAO, UNIDO, ATB, and ITTO, which are agencies under the United Nations since 2010. Up to date, he has conducted 53 international technical and management training programs in 17 Asia-Pacific countries. He was appointed a member of Sustainable Forest Industries International Advisory Committee at the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations in Rome, Italy. And recently, he was appointed to the Board of Forest Products Society, FPS, in Madison, Wisconsin, in the United States, which is the oldest forest product research society in the world. He also actively involved in many professional works in furniture industry with many national and international organizations, including several local banking groups, FAO, UNIDO, ITTO, ITC, and ADB. Up to date, he has successfully worked with the manufacturing facilities in Guatemala, Liberia, Zambia, Vietnam, Ghana, as well as South Africa. And they were funded by respective national governments with the support of World Bank, FAO, and USAID. His services as an industrial consultant is highly sought after, especially in Vietnam, India, and Indonesia. It is no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that Professor Jega has achieved excellence in teaching and research as well as professional involvement, particularly in furniture industry, as written in the inaugural book. Let us now listen to Professor Jegateswaran Ratnasingham's inaugural lecture entitled The Malaysian Future Industry, Charting its Growth Potential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Iqbal, for the generous introduction. Good morning, family and friends. I guess it's an important occasion, but just to make sure that everybody is a little bit relaxed, because the next an hour or so you'll have to listen to me. So I'm going to start off with a little joke that my son shared with me last night. We are very fortunate that as you come into UPM, there's no sign which says school ahead, go slow, you know. So because we don't have such signs around, we are very fortunate that everybody has been here on time. Okay? Because a university in France is also known as a school. So they have signs everywhere in France which says, go slow, school ahead, you see. So we are very fortunate that there is no such signs like that. So everybody has made it on time. Thank you very much. My inaugural lecture today is entitled The Malaysian Furniture Industry, Charting its Growth Potential. The presentation outline, there will be an introduction about the Malaysian furniture industry, the pull factors, unmasking the challenges to sustainable growth, dividends from research, conclusions, and a little acknowledgement for all those who have shaped my life, my professional career over the years. Now, I think when we talk about the furniture industry, it's always very important to refer to the word of Paul Krugman. Those who read economic development literature, this is a mantra for industrial development. Industrial development is a shared commitment between motivated industrialists, enthusiastic government agencies, and dedicated researchers with high but very realistic expectations. And it is reported, it is repeated in almost any United Nations program. And I think it's a very practical piece of wisdom from Professor Paul Krugman, the Nobel laureate for economics. Personally, to reach this stage is to be a professor, and I think it's very important that I share with you a little poem which reads, "To profess what I have heard or seen or learned from many a scholar. A pious hope it has been to render it crystal clear. The gist of this is, I should be able to put all together in a language that the audience can understand and comprehend. And I promise that I will try to do my best. This was a word by Rabindranath Tagore. The contents of this lecture is based on 27 years of my involvement in the furniture industry, not only in Malaysia, but abroad as well. I have been very fortunate because I started as a worker in the industry, moved up the ranks, then I became a merchandiser, then I am consulting, and I am still involved in the furniture industry in one way or another. So this lecture is basically based on very long-term analysis and my passionate observation of where the industry has been and where it is now and where it's going. Okay, before I start that, I have to basically convince everyone that there is a field known as furniture manufacturing and management. Over the years, I had to convince many, including my better half, my wife, because there is such a field known as wood science, let alone furniture technology. You know, when you come from the medical background, and I used to tell her that the wood actually breathes. She said, what? The wood is breathing, you know, because in medicine you are either dead or alive, you know. So you're playing with life. So it took me a very long time to convince her that there is such a thing known as wood science. And I'm not sure whether she is convinced even now, okay? Because the question that they always ask me is, why would someone want to study wood or furniture, you know, when it is something so mundane, you know, you see it everywhere. You go to a mall, you see furniture, you see it by the roadside. There are woods basically found by the roadside, nobody wants it. So, you know, it's for me, it is a lifelong convincing process. So the question that I always have to answer, not only to my family members, but most importantly to my young sons, because these are potential furniture makers, but I'm not sure if they are convinced. Because they always ask me, do you need to study how to make a chair? When in actual fact, the simplest chair ever known to mankind has been the stump of a tree. You know, you just cut a stump of a tree, it's a chair. You know? So as long as you can sell the stump of the tree, you are a furniture maker. So, you know, for me it has been a challenge. So I'm not sure if my little boys are convinced. So I'm not very sure if after so many years I've been able to convince them. But the field of furniture technology is about making a better furniture, more comfortable, cheaper, and of course more appealing. Now, on a serious note, it is a $200 billion global industry, providing employment to nearly 50 million people worldwide. It is as much a science than an art, something which many of us take for granted. So I guess when you can't convince family members, what do? You write a book, you see. You know. So my first book written on the furniture industry, published in 1995, was The Tearful Woodworker. Okay. I think the title describes my fear that people are not convinced that I'm a woodworker. You know. Then in 1996, I decided to call myself the Wood Doctor. You know. But I'm still not sure whether my better half is convinced. Okay? So be it. Okay? Alright. Having said that, now let's continue on a more serious note. Okay. About the furniture industry and its close relationship with human civilization. This is the furniture history timeline. In essence, it means furniture has evolved through different civilizations. Every civilization in the world has had its own taste for furniture. So the designs are very comprehensive and they reflect the lifestyle at that point of time. A very important historical fact. The first registered furniture factory in the country started in 1954 as a family business owned by the then MCA, Malaysian Chinese Association stalwart, Dato Kang Kok Seng, in Kuala Krai, Kelantan, under the name General Lumber Trading Company. So those in the industry, you'll recognize this because this evolved to become Land and General eventually, which is owned by Tan Sri Wan Azmi. Okay, so primarily it is a sawmill, but it also had a relatively large woodworking outfit. That is the only record we have on how furniture started in the country. So those of you who remember, we had a Malaysian Furniture Design Center on the 3rd floor of PGRM. We had Mr. Kenneth Kang. Now Mr. Kenneth Kang is the 4th cousin of Dato Kang Kok Seng. Okay, so that's the historical record to this. Okay, in essence, furniture making is an entrepreneurial art laced with hard sciences to produce items that entice the potential customer to make an impulsive purchase based on perceived value. The innate entrepreneurial skills and the whole gamut of business acumen is what separates success from failure. So it must be realized that the furniture industry is like no other wood product sector in which the market consumes the final product. It is not an intermediate product and it requires no further processing before use. It is a complete industry where raw materials, labor and services interplay in different proportions to result in the final product. Okay, introduction. The development of the wood product industry can be traced back to the early colonial days. We were primarily a big exporter of logs and sawn timber, and the wood sector contributes about 3% of the country's GDP. 25 years ago, it used to contribute about 8%. Now it has shrunk to 3%, not because we have grown, because the other sectors, the oil palm, the electronics have grown much faster than us. It is hailed as a success story of industrial development, especially in cluster development initiatives. It is the third most important commodity export of the country after palm oil and rubber. But it remains a priority socio-economic sector. Now this chart shows that the contribution of the furniture industry has been steadily growing because the secondary wood products export as a percentage of the total export has been increasing over the years. This graph reflects the different types of exports that we have had in the furniture sector. So furniture is still a very important sector in this country. About the Malaysian furniture industry. My book in 2006 is the first historical documentation on the forestry sector in Malaysia and the years after that. I have been very fortunate because I had collaborated with Professor Florin Ayoras of the Oxford Forestry Institute and we had access to all the British parliamentary papers. So it is a very historical document that actually states what influence the British had on Malaysian forestry sector. And as I said earlier, the first factory came on stream in 1954, and in 1970, the total number of mills producing furniture increased to 130, primarily catering for the domestic market. When we talk about the Malaysian furniture industry, we can't avoid the fact that the infancy stage has had some historical development. Post-independent multi-ethnic society in Malaysia, after independence in 57, we dwelled in efforts of seeking commonalities in the art and craft sector. So we had the Indian art and craft, the Chinese art and craft, as well as the Malay community art and craft. And there was a beginning phase of the so-called Malaysian craft theme. So post-independence furniture themes reflected the diverse ethnic religious elements drawn from the plural Malaysian society. So the designs of the early 1960s actually reflect Malaysia in its true identity, because it reflected elements of all the ethnic races. Unfortunately, the upheavals of the late 1960s not only broke the fabric of the plural society, but at the same time, it severely retarded the development of what we call the Malaysian identity in the art and craft sector. So I think it's a very important point, and what we are doing in UPM, we are trying to revisit this and trying to get back to the glorious day, because we need to identify what would describe a typical Malaysian furniture. So that is something that we are doing here at the Faculty of Forestry with my students and some of my other colleagues. The development over the years, despite the obscure indigenous art and craft identity, furniture manufacturing continued to prosper, especially in rural areas, because it creates jobs. The comparative advantage from ample supply of workforce was important, and we had ample raw materials. So the furniture industry prospered because local demands was there. So as a result, manufacturing capacity expanded. The emerging years are very important, because in the mid-1980s were the milestone years for the furniture, for the Malaysian furniture sector, especially the export-oriented industry. Fueled by a market vacuum left by the former Yugoslavia, which is an important furniture exporter in the world at that time. And when Yugoslavia went into war, the Malaysian furniture sector bloomed at the right time to take advantage of the prevailing market in the United States. So 1980s was the boom years for the Malaysian furniture industry, because Yugoslavia has traditionally been a very important exporter of furniture to the US. So coupled with the introduction of rubber wood, which I think many people are familiar as an alternative material, thanks to the effort by FRIM, MTIB and other agencies, the material became a very important raw material for the furniture sector. And one ingredient played a very important role in making sure of the success of rubber wood. We had companies such as Hong Kong Teakwood, located in Saling, Johor, and UMW Industries in Temelong, These were the pioneering companies that used rubber wood to export furniture to the US. And as a result, the material was accepted in the US market. And in fact, I would say that that was the turning point. So a lesson from this is the fact that if we are trying to develop a new raw material, then ideally we should get the industry involved from day one. Because if the industry does not buy or subscribe to that material, then it is going to be a challenge. Sorry for that comment because I've been teaching for some time, so I have to draw some inference from this lecture. I hope the chair doesn't mind. Okay, very quickly, the profile of the furniture industry. We have an installed processing capacity estimated at 2.8 million cubic meters per annum. That is how much wood that's required. Total number of workers, 82,000 workers in the furniture industry. 53% are foreign workers. Export to production ratio, about 83%. We have a domestic market value at 6.3 billion. So the profile of the furniture manufacturers, the top 100 accounted for 64% of the total exports. So when they are big, they are massive. Okay? So the statistics from the Department of Statistics Malaysia reported 1,800 furniture manufacturers. But a scoping census was done by Frost and Sullivan way back in 2015, and they reported total number of manufacturers was in excess of 3,500. So we have a big difference between what's reported by Statistics Department and what is done by the scoping study by Frost and Sullivan. Okay, the development phase. We had very good initiatives from the government. The first industrial master plan, 1986-1995. The focus was primarily on downstream processing. The second industrial master plan, 1996-2005, a focus of value-added manufacturing. And now we are in the third industrial master plan, 2006 to 2020. The focus is on higher value-added and creative products. Now, industrial structure, we have 4 different categories. We have micro companies, less than 5 workers. Small companies between 5 to 75, medium between 75 to 200, and large more than 200. I remember I have to interject at this point. When I first told Mr. Kimball Yao of KFC Furniture Manufacturing in Bukit Rambai, that company does not exist anymore because he had moved out, I told him that I was going to do a PhD in furniture engineering. He is a Taiwanese. He said, PhD in furniture engineering? For what? I said, no, I think it's a good field to pursue. He said, yeah, but you must study how to make the chair break faster. Then I have better business. So I still remember Mr. Kimball Yao. Those of you in the furniture sector, you'll remember it's KFC Holding. It was listed in the stock exchange. So Kimball has been a very good friend. We had some very good time, but I'm still not convinced that I'm able to do furniture that would break in 6 months. But it is something to think about. Okay? Alright. Production characteristics. We have 3 broad terminologies: original equipment manufacturing, original design, and original brand. I first heard this in 1984 when the late Tun Lim Keng Ek was the Minister of Primary Industries. Okay, I heard this in 1984, and ever since I'm still hearing it now. So that is going on. So the transformation from the OEM to ODM and to the OBM strategy has been embarked since the early 1990s. But the success has been somewhat limited. Manufacturing strategies in the furniture industry, a highly contentious issue but this is based on the research that we did nationwide in 2015. Most of the manufacturers in the country operate under original equipment manufacturing. If you see the chart there, you say CMD. That is an acronym for another version of OEM. You copy, you modify, and you design. That's a better way of saying it. The industry likes that. You don't say OEM, you say CMD. You copy, you modify, you design. ODM, original design, is about 23%, and original brand is about 7%. We have some very good brands coming out of Sungai Buloh. Because when I meet friends from Italy, from the region of Rimini, they tell me names like Novair. You hear that. That means the Italians have recognized some of these manufacturers. Despite Sungai Buloh is a difficult place to get in and identify these factories, but they are a world-class brand. So I think this is something that we must acknowledge. The ability to manufacture furniture of established teams is so prevalent. It's amazing because some factories in Batu Pahar are able to turn around a prototype within 3 hours. I mean, this is amazing. Within 3 hours, a prototype is ready. So I think credit should be given to the industry. Trade pattern. As it stands, the Malaysian-made furniture is exported to more than 160 countries around the world. We are an export-oriented industry. Only 17% of what we produce is consumed domestically. The domestic market is relatively small due to the limited furniture purchasing power among consumers. Our annual purchase on the average stands at about 1,480 ringgit per year. That is the household expenditure. So if you go down to IKEA, you may be able to furnish half your house or at least half your apartment. But I'm not sure if you can furnish a single story terrace house with 1,480. So the message is it's a small purchasing power. But we hope with the increasing household income, as we move towards becoming a high income nation, then the domestic market will also grow. So this chart depicts what we have been exporting. So you can see that imports are beginning to grow. Now what does it mean? It means that people, at least a portion of the Malaysian society, is becoming more affluent, and they are looking for material, they are looking for furniture with a different theme, a different taste. Now, wooden furniture is the main material that is used in the furniture sector. So it makes up almost a third of what we produce. Okay, this is the top 10 Malaysian furniture export destination. I like to draw your attention to this table because we are still very much dependent on the 3 countries: USA, Japan, Australia. So these are very important. So if we need to diversify, then we need to look at other markets very seriously. So the efforts to diversify market has got to be intensified. So this depicts the export trend very clearly. So USA is very important, Japan, UK, Singapore, Australia, Canada. Okay. UAE is slowly coming into the picture, India is growing, but the rest are somewhat small. Export of furniture by types, wood is very important. So one of the challenges that we face in the Malaysian furniture industry, that when you mention furniture, the first thing that comes to the mind is wood. We are not able to see furniture as a product made from different materials. Because the fact is, furniture is fashion. So if it is fashion, then why should we just confine ourselves to the use of wood? So this is something that we see also in the exhibitions every year. There is a lot of focus on wooden furniture. Export of rubber wood furniture is very important because it is the predominant raw material used, and no other wood species has such importance. So if we, for some reason, run into problems with the supply of rubber wood, then the furniture industry is going to be seriously affected. What are the pull factors? Now, raw material is very important. Now, over the years, we have seen some forest plantation established. We have had species like acacia, sentang, pine, albizia, malina, mahogany and all that. Despite the availability of this, although in small quantities, now rubber wood has still stood out as the predominant raw material. In fact, the favorable attributes of rubber wood has made it the material of choice. So this gives us a little breakdown of how much wood is actually available. So if you look at the column, the second column, it shows that the amount of material coming out of the natural forest is actually steadily reducing. And even with rubber wood, it is steadily reducing because the rubber areas are being converted to oil palm. And my friend in Guthrie says it's better to build some houses on the rubber plantation. So they basically bring down the rubber trees and they develop houses. So it's basically not a good sign. But that's the reality as it is. So one of the effects of this has been we are now a net importer of raw material. I mean, we used to have abundance. And now, as of 2015, our imports reach 0.7 million cubic meters. So that's a sign that's a little bit concerning. Now, this is from a scoping study that we have done here at the faculty in 2015. It gives you the amount of material that is used in the furniture industry. So metal is about 130,000 kilograms, rattan and bamboo 250,000 poles, plastic 85,000 cubic meters, upholstery 200,000 square meters, and wood 2.19 million cubic meters. So consumptions of other materials are relatively small and we need to encourage them. Okay, a very contentious issue, workforce. Now I like to draw the attention of the audience to the fact that we are actually very dependent on foreign contract workers. Now over the years, the increasing number of foreign contract workers in almost all sectors of the wood industry is very revealing. So we have workers from Bangladesh, Myanmar, Nepal. They make up about 95% of all foreign workers in the furniture industry. Work in the furniture sector is considered very unattractive. One, it's a prevailing low wage economy. I remember when I first started in the furniture industry in Hong Kong Tea, my salary was 429 Malaysian ringgit. So I had to share a room with a general worker. And I thought, my God, And the neighboring factory was offering 435 ringgit. So I thought it's not worth moving to the neighboring factory for 15 ringgit. So I decided to stay in Hong Kong Tea. So that was the start, and in fact, it is very much the same these days. Okay. The 3D syndrome is a challenge not only for the younger generation, because it is a very dirty industry. it is dangerous and it is demeaning. So people are not attracted. The younger people would rather go to some other sector. Okay. Skill-based training centers. We have VISTAC, we have FITAC. Now they have focused on providing pool of skilled workers. But the uptake of such programs are also somewhat poor. Which means the society as large, the younger generation is not very keen. Adoption of technology and automation to offset the over-dependence on labor is limited. Because if you bring high technology equipment into the factory, then you need very competent workers. But unfortunately, that's not available. Now, capital outlay. Very interestingly, the domestic investment accounts for about 70% of total investments in the furniture industry, as the influx of foreign direct investment in the early days has reduced. At the peak of the furniture industry, we had companies like the Ye brothers, we had KFC. KFC was doing 450 40-foot containers a month. That was the peak days. Now that's all gone, unfortunately. We still have some foreign companies here, Latitude Tree, Green River, but the volume has definitely reduced. So now the trend has reversed, that we are looking more at domestic investments. Micro, small and medium enterprise, MSMEs, account for almost 93% of the total number of enterprises in the furniture industry. So most of the companies are small. These enterprises are second or third tier companies. Now what does that mean? That means these guys have been working for a large manufacturer. They would come out and start up a company of their own, a smaller company, supplying components, supplying parts and whatnot. Okay. So inevitably, it also reveals that the industry is more receptive to skills and experience rather than brains and professionals. Hence, it may also explain the lack of career opportunities for budding young professionals aspiring to venture into the industry, unless they become entrepreneurs themselves. So I think within the faculty, we are trying to run some programs for young entrepreneurs in the furniture industry, and hopefully the program will kick off. The first batch is supposed to kick off in July or August of this year. Another reason is the low entry barrier also explains the rapid build-up in the furniture manufacturing capacity within the industry. I remember Mr. Kimball Yao used to tell me, I said, how did you get involved in this furniture industry? He said it was very simple. No? He held a piece of wood on his left hand, raised his right hand, and he was sworn in as a furniture manufacturer. I said, what? Apparently in Taiwan it's all passed on from family. The family is involved, so there's a tradition. So low entry barrier means a lot of people get into the industry. I think the supporting agencies have been very useful. A lot of government and non-government agencies are supporting, facilitating, coordinating, doing what they can to help the industry. So the key performance indicator of the National Timber Industry Plan targets that export value of 53 billion by the year 2020. However, under prevailing trend, I think we will have to relook at that number again. I think I will skip this because this is available in that inaugural booklet. You can read this. Incentives, very important, because it is an industry that is dependent on incentives. If there are incentives, change takes place, you get support, you get activity. Okay? The provision of tax holidays under the Pioneer Status Scheme has been one of the primary reasons for the relocation of manufacturers from Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea to the shores of Malaysia in the early years of the industry. I think this is very important and we have to recognize this. Okay, unmasking the challenges to sustainable growth. The challenges faced by the Malaysian furniture industry cannot be scrutinized easily as it involves intricate network, both formal and informal enterprises feeding into a complex supply chain. So statistics in the furniture industry, there are basically two custom codes that we look at, HS 9401, HS 9403. These statistics are rather unverified because the total number of enterprises captured by the statistics do not reflect what's happening on the ground. So, in order to address the shortcomings, we had looked at the annual manufacturing survey report over 30 years to come up with a trend. So, a 30-year data set analysis of it was in fact the most comprehensive study ever conducted on the Malaysian furniture industry. So this is the growth pattern of the Malaysian furniture industry since 1986. So first IMP average growth was about 40%. Second IMP we came down to about 15 to 20%. And now in IMP 3 we are seeing less than 5%. This is annual growth. So it is something that we have to relook. This is the raw data that was compiled from the annual manufacturing survey. I have to acknowledge the assistance of Professor Jomo Kwame Sundram because he has been very influential in helping me getting this data. I have to acknowledge his help. Okay, labor characteristics. Labor cost per employee growing at a similar pace at labor productivity. So what does it mean? It means no significant contribution by the labor factor towards productivity. So whether we use foreign worker or local worker, there's no difference. I think this is very important to look at. Labor cost competitiveness. The cost of labor is gradually reducing, meaning labor cost is negatively impacting the industry. Labor is no longer an advantage, despite the use of foreign workers. Capital intensity. Capital utilization is slow relative to labor content, meaning the industry, despite the availability of technology, we are still very much labor dependent. Capital productivity. Capital utilization both for output and value increment is stagnating, meaning the companies that have the machines do not make the full and the best use of the machines. Innovation capacity. I like to draw the attention of the audience to the fourth column. It tells you that we are actually struggling with our innovation capability. Over the years, we have not been able to move up the value chain. So if we look at productivity, value addition and innovation trends, then the best word to describe this, it is somewhat stagnating. So this is something we'll have to relook at what the industry can do. Now, what have been the dividends derived from the research that we have been doing here at the faculty? So since 1998, we have done some work. We have had the advantage of linking with some of the international agencies. That has been very fulfilling. Okay. Comparative advantage from raw material is no longer available because we are becoming an importer of raw material. Only 7 wood species in the country are available in the sizable quantity to fulfill the demand of the industry. Despite we having 53 commercial timber available in the country, in sizable quantity, there is only 7 species available. So this is a challenge for the industry because you are species dependent. And in this context, either the supply of rubber wood must be expanded extensively, or the importation of established furniture wood materials must be supported, either through subsidized schemes or government sourcing. Workforce. It has been shown conclusively that low-cost foreign workers' employment is not justified. So I think the government is moving in the right direction to minimize the use of foreign workers because they impair productivity growth. Okay. The survey also revealed that middle management staffs and hands-on supervisors and superintendents are highly in demand. Not so much the graduates or the professionals. It is partly attributed to the family-owned enterprises as well as the communal culture. Because most businesses in the furniture industry are family-owned. So as a result of that, the level of professionalism is not there. So they may be a little bit reluctant to employ an outsider into a senior management position. And I think another issue is, of course, the lack of enforcement by many related occupational safety and health agencies has contributed to what I would call the deplorable working conditions. So the conditions are dirty. As a result of that, the young people are not very keen because it is one of the reasons why the youngs actually stay away from the industry. Complying with diversified market. 87% of the total export of furniture goes to 5 countries only. So diversification is something we are not very aggressively pursuing. And now with the growing environmental consciousness, COC certification is also growing. But within the furniture industry, the number of COC certified manufacturers are also small. So this is something that we have to relook. I had a PhD student who looked at the adoption of ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 in the furniture industry. The outcome of the study was basically ISO was simply used as a marketing tool, not so much to improve the manufacturing system within the furniture industry. So most companies don't mind investing about 50 to 70,000 getting an ISO. They put up a banner, they please the buyers. They are very happy with exporting furniture, but the conditions within the factory remains the same. Complying with diversified market. So COC is certified enterprises is highest within the sawmilling sector. And within the furniture industry, there is a perception that because rubber wood comes from the plantation, it is certified naturally. But that is not the case, because we still have to go through the motion of having it certified. So among the reasons why COC certification has not picked up within the furniture sector, number one, there is no price premium. You don't get a higher price if you use certified material. So that is something the market will have to respond. Okay. Market diversification is necessary. Competing in the same market segment with a high supply elasticity. The usual trend in the furniture industry is it is a reducing price and profitability has resulted in an industrial shakeout. 145 large and medium-sized first-generation companies have ceased operation in the last 2 decades. This was a study that we did for CIMB in 2015. Niche products are lacking, design identity almost non-existent. The type of buyers attracted to purchase from Malaysia are volume-seeking buyers. And of course, we need market intelligence. Information is also somewhat limited. Now, policy direction, it is very important that we have a very clear policy, not flip-flopping as we have seen in some instances. So this has got to be addressed as well. automation and technology adaptations. The Malaysian industry, especially the manufacturers, have very short-term horizon. So they are more focused on cost of investment rather than what is the long-term goal in the sector. So investment is somewhat small because we are finding annual sales of machinery around 10 million. Now that is the main reason why machinery fairs do not take place in Malaysia anymore. Because the market is small and most manufacturers, they know if you need a machine, who the suppliers are. So there is no reason to have machinery fairs in the country. The lack of ICT knowledge among workers within the furniture industry also hampers efforts to make the best use of technology available. So this is important. Extent of innovation and creativity, we have said this. Now I like to draw the attention of the audience to a report for CIMB where the free on board FOB value of a 40-foot container over the last 10 years have been reducing by 1.3% per annum. That means we are using the same amount of material in the container, but the value of the container has been reducing. So we are actually overproducing products of the same type. This is something that we have to seriously look at. I think a point is furniture is fashion. I'm not sure if my wife is convinced, but furniture is fashion. So it means we have to diversify and use different materials, different fittings, different construction, different processes. Financial realities. This is very close to my heart, and I am a very passionate observer of the furniture industry. When I first joined the industry, I always thought, when will I be ever able to drive a BMW like the owners of the factory? When I left the industry, I realized I stand no chance unless I become a manufacturer myself. So the furniture industry in the country is categorically known as a poor yield sector. For the banks, it is a high risk for solvency. So when they regard the industry as a risky business, to get loans is a challenge. So after the 1988-89 financial crisis, the ballooning non-performing loan, NPL, among the furniture companies exposed the lending vulnerabilities of many financial institutions in the country, especially CIMB and Maybank, the two big financial institutions that has been very supportive of the furniture industry. So many first generation companies that were the so-called model factories, such as Victory Industries, Sinwa Seng, KFC, Berjaya CCF, PKNS Federal, Guthrie Furniture, MK Furniture, they disappeared without a trace and they left thousands unemployed. So Dana Harta came into the picture for restructuring. I also did some work for Dana Harta, but it didn't solve the problem. Despite the cleanup, the furniture industry cannot be regarded as an industry that has learned from its past. Almost all the publicly traded furniture companies in the Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange have very small yields, as reflected by their earnings per share, and their annual dividend payout is somewhat insignificant compared to other resource-based industries. But there is a caveat. Lately, with the depreciation of the ringgit, these counters have been doing well because they have been able to export more. But how long this is going to be able to sustain is a question that many of us are wondering. So in essence, the long-term profitability of the furniture companies are somewhat obscure. It's not very clear. So we need to do things in order to boost the confidence in the sector. Confidence is very, very important. Now, research, there's a lack of funding, it's a long gestation period, and no guarantee for success. So, I think the industry is generally reluctant because you can never say whether the design or the prototype you produce is going to be sold. So, this is something that makes them very wary of new product development. And I think we are trying very hard. We have been very successful with the fair organizers, MIF, Karen is here, Kelly is here, we have EFE, we have been very successful in putting the university at the forefront of these furniture fairs. And we hope that we can upscale this relationship so that we can get more activities through the fair organizers. Because it is a platform by which all manufacturers in the country are participating. So it is a one-stop center for us to engage with the industry. So for the last, I would say 10 years, we have been the only university, I think, consistently making our presence felt at the international furniture fairs in the country. Human capital development. Very important, we have looked at the 3D syndrome and the low wage. I can't do much about the low wage because I think Albert is here. You may have to convince your members so that our graduates get paid more, So I think I leave it to the industry. So, Mr. Koo is here. So this is something the council will have to take up to the national body. Maybe the starting salary can be equal to what they get paid in the semiconductor industry. Then maybe we will get more people involved. Okay? But you can expect me to raise this in the next meeting with you all. Okay? Alright. So, I think we must also recognize that there is a steadily reducing number of wood science and technology programs throughout the world. It's not only a Malaysian phenomenon, but throughout the world. Because the number of employment opportunities for graduates and professionals in the furniture sector and the wood industry is somewhat limited. So we'll have to realign the existing programs to meet industrial needs. So practical and industrial oriented content must be significantly increased. We are also observing even with the HRDF funds, there are not much activity going on for the furniture industry, let alone the timber sector. So I guess MTIB and UPM and WISTAG and FITAG will have to sit down and relook at this again. It's very important we understand the fact of what is being illustrated in the first chart up there. So when you have foreign workers, every peak reflects the term of employment. So when the worker leaves, you have to rebuild your skill levels again. So you get a new batch of workers, you start from scratch. So this is very consuming, very time consuming, and it's also very costly for the industry. So we'll have to look at different models like what they have in Europe, possibly the teaching company scheme, whereby the university sits within the company conducting courses for the company. Against this backdrop, the success of the Malaysian furniture sector can be attributed to several factors. Mostly, it is the friendly business environment. And of course, the financial endowment is very important. The industry has benefited from the many incentives and promotion provided by the government. Okay. Inevitably, or rather unfortunately, the industry has been somewhat trapped in a low-wage economy because of its structure and its dependence on foreign workers. So this chart basically shows the relative importance of the many factors that assist the industry. So most importantly, it's the government trade policies incentives. Second is the industrial structure. Third is market access. So that's basically the relative importance of the industry. Major research contribution, I will go through a little bit faster because I don't want to take the whole day, because this is 27 years of work. So okay, so I have 27 years more, I guess, but I'm not sure if the audience had 27 years more to go. Okay, all right. So basically, these are some of the factors that I've screened through: incremental factor inputs, restricted raw materials, perceived low cost, foreign contract workers, lack of competent workers, little product diversification. We are not a green economy. And of course, cultural elements and family ties are also important in the furniture industry. Industrial development policies must be focused. Current industrial needs, linkages between the industry and the universities must be strengthened. Because we are producing human capital, and I think it plays a very important role. And furniture is fashion. We must recognize the fact that furniture is fashion. And if it is fashion, we must move away from this mindset that it has got to be wood only. It can be wood and metal, it can be plastic and metal, it can be a combination of different materials. Okay? Conclusions: it is undeniable that the government policy and fiscal instruments have been pivotal in driving the Malaysian furniture industry to its present level, fueled by attractive incentives that facilitated incremental capital inputs. The growth rate has gradually reduced due to declining competitiveness and slow pace of value-adding activities. The shift from OEM to ODM to OBM has been slow. Policy instruments can facilitate industrial expansion, but it can seldom transform industries through innovation and creativity. I think this is very important for us to recognize. Value addition and creativity is a shared commitment between all stakeholders. It cannot be achieved through policy instruments in a regulated environment. I think it's very important because the industry as it is, with the incentives provided by the government, if you look at the numbers of company and the volume that they are producing, it is an amazing achievement for the industry, because having started out with a single factory in 1954, and we are now doing something close to about 14 billion in production value. So it is a huge industry, and we would like, the university certainly would like to engage more closely with the industry. The shared vision for the furniture industry through linkages between the industry, universities and agencies must be strengthened to ensure future competitiveness. Furniture is fashion, and commodity-oriented furniture will not be perceived as high value. Innovative furniture, diversity, unique identity and increased functionality must be reflected in the products of tomorrow. My parting words is that the furniture industry in Malaysia is embedded in the spirit and entrepreneurial skills of the field. I salute the pioneers who started this furniture industry way back in 1954. And over the years, we have seen many successful entrepreneurs turning small backyard workshops into multi-billion-dollar enterprises. It reflects the higher spirit of entrepreneurial skills. And it remains encapsulated in a cultural ethnic dogma. The future will depend on how the pointers that I have raised in this lecture are articulated, implemented and fortified into the industrial network with the support of all stakeholders to ensure growth along the value chain that is more equitable and sustainable. Now I have to acknowledge many people who have shaped my thoughts, my career development, my professional development, and my physical. As I look back through the years, many people have played a role in shaping me physically, spiritually, and professionally. Foremost are my parents, my father, the late Mr. Paramu Ratnasingam, my mother, Mrs. Rajeswari Ratnasingam, for instilling in me the correct values and the desire to be curious. I am also grateful to my brothers, sisters, my two little sons, Nat Kunjaran, who is here, and Aingaran, who always thought I knew nothing about the furniture industry. He is at school. For always keeping me on my toes with their witty line of questioning. Thank you guys. My wife, Dr. Vidya Nathondan, despite her very taxing medical career, has always been the pillar of my support in many endeavors. I could not have reached this stage without her compassion and love. Thank you. My father-in-law, who has been very supportive in all my endeavors, in doing the little chores of picking up the kids from school when I couldn't make it. He is here. Thank you. To all my teachers and colleagues, both academic, non-academic, at the Faculty of Forestry UPM, for the cordial and enabling environment that ensured healthy discussion on all matters of concern. A happy workplace is indeed a productive workplace. Thank you guys. I wish to express my special gratitude to Dr. Kamesh Awam, the Dean when I was a student and the Dean that brought me in as a tutor. My mentor, Dr. Lim Meng Sai, who told me that I have to prove myself. Dr. Lai Futsi, who is not here, who is in Australia, who thought I was crazy doing furniture. And Dr. Razali Abdul Kader, who said, if I can survive in the industry, I can survive anywhere. For nurturing my interest in this field. Without such role models, I could not have reached this stage in my academic life. Special thanks goes to Dean Prof. Zakaria, Enche Sopian, Puan Alina, Prof. Zaidon, Dr. Kamzia, and the rest of the team for this well-organized event. A word of appreciation must also go to Dating Professor Farida Khan for her trust, encouragement, and support toward my endeavors during her tenure as Dean. Because it was during her tenure that we got the first official textbook on the forestry sector in Malaysia. Thank you. I hope my collaborators abroad will get to see this, and I am grateful to IDEC for streaming this on the YouTube so the Germans will be able to watch this afternoon. To my international research collaborators in Rosenheim, in Stuttgart, in Brunel University, in the Royal College of Arts, the National University of Singapore, and the École Supérieure du Bois in France for sharing their extensive research platform which has expanded my research insights tremendously over the years. The annual research and teaching stints that is fortunately allowed by UPM, that allows me to travel every year abroad, has been so enlightening and enriching. I am grateful to UPM, the management, for this opportunity. To my collaborators in the furniture industry, exhibition organizers, and most importantly, the many furniture manufacturers in the region, for having scolded me, yelled at me, chased me out, for having poured the coffee on my head, and most importantly, the information exchange that helped me shape a better understanding of the industry. Really appreciates these hours and hours of discussion. By engaging me as an integral partner in the many major industrial activities, both in Malaysia and in the Asian region, I have gained tremendously both in terms of experience and knowledge. So I thank everybody from the industry who is here. Some are from Muar, some are from Batu Pahat, the heart of the Malaysian furniture sector. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much for these hours, for this ability to converse and share information. And I must also acknowledge my mentors and colleagues at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the Industrial Development Organization of the UN, UNIDO, ITTO, the International Tropical Timber Organization, and the Asian Development Bank for the many opportunities to work on international assignments throughout the world, which has had very profound impact on my global perspective of the furniture industry, which in turn has significantly influenced my career as an academician, as a researcher, and as an industry expert. Thank you. I am also indebted to my previous industrial employers for telling me that you have to go through the mill from the bottom up, and emphasizing upon me that without dirt and grease on your hands, you are not going to make it as a furniture expert. I will tell you a joke. It's not a joke. At that time, I thought the general manager meant it as a joke. But it's a very important message that I learned. I started my first interview. I went with my masters from UPM in Hong Kong tea. And the general manager was a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Siang. He interviewed me and he said, "Can you start now?" So I had my tie and all that. So I was very impressed, because I had a master's, I did very well. I won some awards. I was in the dean's list and all that. So I went with him, and then he took me to the rough milling. Now rough milling is where you have these big machines and they are preparing this material. So I said, "What do I do here?" So I thought I was going to be the manager, So he said, no, you are in charge here. So I said, "Do I have a job description, contract of employment?" He said, "Yeah, the contract of employment is this. If the section cannot supply the material for the next section, I will sack you." That was my first contract of employment. So I realized, these guys mean business. Okay? So that is something I really cherish about the industry, because it is very result oriented. They don't mince their word, very result oriented. And finally, I acknowledge the power of compassion of God for being with me throughout this journey and being my guiding light in life, here and ever after. Thank you, terima kasih, nandri, and sheshe. There is a little video presentation of where I came, where I am going, which will be played now.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let's give a round of applause to Professor Jaga. I was initially wondering why he started his talk with a joke, and then later he ended also with a joke. And then I came up with the conclusion that maybe that is because the picture here looks very serious, as well as at the bunting. There's one important summary that I really hope that by now we all do really understand the importance of wood signs and furniture. And Professor Jaga did also mention that even his better half did not understand about the importance of wood signs and furniture. But I really hope that by now that she has already understand that. If she still did not understand that, one important statistics been showed by Professor Jaga is that annually Malaysian we spend RM 1,480 ringgit per year for furniture. So Mrs. Jaga, if you still do not understand, after this you can bring Professor Jaga to IKEA and you have 1,480 ringgit to spend. One important fact that I also learned today is that Muar and Batu Pahat is the heart of the furniture industry in Malaysia. And I come from Muar and I did not realize that. Thank you, Professor Jaga. With that, we shall end our inaugural lecture, this series. And inshallah, I'll be meeting you all again in the next series. Thank you again for being with us today. Wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal for chairing the lecture session, and thank you Professor Dr. Jagateswaran Ratnasingham for an inspiring and enlightening lecture. We also like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Datin Paduka Aini Idris, Vice Chancellor of University Putra Malaysia, for making the time to attend Professor Dr. Jagateswaran Ratnasingham inaugural lecture. We would like to invite the Dean of the Faculty of Forestry and Professor Dr. Jagateswaran Ratnasingham to the stage for a photo-taking session with Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the inaugural lecture. We would like to extend our deepest gratitude and appreciation to all who had made the ceremony a success. On behalf of the organizer, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal and all present for lunch. Thank you and have a pleasant day.